So the topic for today's discussion is Agile for business value, how to align business and IT. So organizations today are facing a huge gap between their business and IT teams, and it is a growing concern. The execution and IT teams do not have exposure to the entire business functionality and business goals since they are organized around individual functions. This is why they are not able to align their work towards larger business goals, and as a result, their work cannot be measured against business outcomes. Delivering business value in an agile way requires close collaboration between business and IT teams, and that is exactly what we are here to learn today from our expert speaker. That brings me to welcome our honorable speaker for today, Arie Van Bennekum. Arie is a pragmatic who embeds his pragmatism in structure, discipline, and common sense from his early days within the fields of healthcare and military forces up to where he is today. This eventually led him to being one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto. Over the years, Arie has become an expert on agile transformations and business agility. He works as a thought leader for Humanity and IFAAI. At Humanity, he is responsible for transformation across the globe with the support of an international team. Arie has also developed an agile transformation framework, which is called as IATM. Apart from that, he has authored 3 books. His first book talks about how to handle change and objectives as an individual. The second book, which is coming out soon, deals with the topic delivering business agility. The third is in the making, and it is titled All About Agile Transformations. So without much ado, I would like to request Arie to take it over and begin the session. Over to you, Arie.
Yeah, thank you, Snehal. I would like to say to everybody, welcome. I will be making notes or talking about the flip chart behind me. So feel free to zoom in so you can more in detail see what I talk about or what I draw. I was listening to your introduction, and I think, oh yeah, business and IT alignment. You know, just the fact that we have to say it like this points out instantly the problem. And the problem is the fact that we have obviously 2 entities in the organization that perceive themselves as individual and are not into collaboration at all. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to talk about it. I want to talk with you today about business and IT alignment. It's a very old phrase, and I think it's not even such a nice phrase. But I want to explain to you today, those are my 3 objectives. 1, how to create it. 2nd, how to keep it, how to sustain it, and also the impact of visual management on this process, how it can help you. Before going into the details of the alignment, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. Snehal was talking about my early days in the field of the healthcare and the military forces. And after that, I got into IT and started developing, and it was November 1993. Got into a project, and it was so classical waterfall. It was, in a hallway, I think at the 8th or the 9th floor of the building. You had rooms, and I was with 2 other people doing technical design. 3 people, technical design team. The full project team, literally across the hallway, was 30 people. Next to us, we had a room with the functional designers. And we as technical designers, all have got our own functional designers. So we were all getting, documents from the same person all the time, and we would translate that into another document. And I couldn't see that happening, right? So there's somebody here. My functional designer was called Jan, and Jan made a functional design, and I would get it. I would copy paste a lot because a lot of the functional design would also be in the technical design. I would add some information, give it to the next one down the line, the developers. And I realized that those people next down the line, they could read the functional design, and what I was adding, they could do as well. So I felt that I did a lot of redundant work, and the work that I did extra was so simple and easy that somebody else could have done that in a much easier way, because you would skip one whole gate with acceptance criteria, etc. And then, to my shock, it is in the meanwhile May 1994, so we're 7 months down the line. It's like 10 in the morning, and the project manager calls us all in, so we go into the room, And he said, yeah, the project has been killed. It stopped. So you can go home. We were all externals. And I think from the 30, 25 or 26, we're out in 15 minutes. And I got a bit, to say frankly, pissed off. This was a governmental organization. It means that you are paying bills with public money. And I was really upset that we were able, obviously, with 30 people to work in such a way that we produced something that was so unimportant that they could just stop it and never restart it again. And I thought it can be that we have public money being wasted like this. I mean, I even also in for-profit organization, you know, when it's fintech, what I don't care, automotive, you know, when you have a company, a for-profit company, and I go in there, I want to make them to feel that organization that I bring value for money. I want them to be able to say, you know, this is what it cost and this is what he brought, and just 30 people, that's a couple of million, right? Just wasted. I said I'm never going to do this again. I was able to make my change at that moment in time, and I started doing, you know, what we call Agile today. So my focus was, especially in the beginning, very much on, okay, we need to make sure that we bring something that helps the organization forward, that creates value by either taking the opportunity or solving the problem. So if you hear me talk about Agile and value delivery, that's what it is. Period. I always say, if you want to, and I just want to bring this to you, just think about it. Why are we doing Agile? Why are we doing this? Just think. I want to give you 2 words. We are doing Agile because we want only one thing. We want to avoid delay. Avoiding delay is what we talk about. And you can make the sentence a little bit longer. Avoiding delay of delivering business valuable solutions to the market. Right? And I mean in production. Because what we make isn't value. What we make is something that will create the value the moment it is in production and we use it well, right? That's what, so you have to do something for that. In 1994, I started working differently. This is June, because I made that step to work differently, started experimenting, became very active in the community. And that's also a very important part of everything that we do for me. You know, we especially when it comes to change, or when things are not working well, we point at others, or we point at the team, or we point at the management, or we point at the structure, or we point at the culture of the organization. But we avoid to point at ourselves. I think we have a responsibility when it comes to the fact that you have an income every single day. That company or that client where you are is expecting something for you, and that's completely justified because they pay for you, right? So you have to take that into your own hands. It's about personal responsibility. I always say you're the architect of your own life. And from that perspective, you know, we have to take our role and see, okay, what can we do better? And I hear so many people, no, and the world doesn't improve from those who say no. The world improves from those who say yes. Very simple, right? Who are willing to take the extra step, who are willing to make mistakes. People who have the courage to say, you know, I'm going to walk a path I never walked before. And I hope that I will be able today to help you with some of the steps that I walked where I never walked before, and that they will give you a little bit of help to walk them. I know you didn't walk there before, but maybe my story will help you a little bit to take it on. That alignment, that business value was for me the driver. I got very active in the community. So then it's February 2001, and I get into this room in Salt Lake City with 16 others. And what is very important to understand is, where do we come from? Because I hear the most, let me put it mildly, strange quotes about Agile. But let me tell you what we were doing there in that room, where in the Aspen room in Snowbird Resort in Salt Lake City. And I love the quote from John Kern, the author of Feature-Driven Development, one of the authors of Agile Manifesto. He said last year, somewhere in the fireside chat that we had, he said, when we went to Salt Lake City and we got into that room, we left our egos at the door. Meaning, we listened to each other, and we didn't listen to criticize. We didn't listen to say something was wrong. We listened because every single one of the 17 worked in a different way for their own purpose with their own type of people. So maybe you can learn something from those people, right? From the other 16. And I have this drawing for you because this is, let's say, a very simple version of the waterfall. And we were all, every one of us had made the decision, okay, in that waterfall, the way we work, there are problems embedded in the waterfall, and we need to, so everybody had their own vision. I want to show you this, right? If you go to that waterfall, and especially I just can take that last waterfall project that I did myself. I was here, doing technical design, and there was a functional designer before me, and before that, an analyst talked to the client. And somebody talked to the client, captured the information, and put it in a document. That document was sent to the next one, made another document, sent to the next one, made another document, sent to the next one. This is the process, right? What happens if we communicate? I'm not talking complicated stuff. I'm way too simple for this. What happens if we communicate? And in any way, we can talk, we can write, we can email, we can tweet, we can post something on the media, we can send a letter, still possible these days. But what happens if you communicate? The moment that you start communicating, what happens is that you make interpretations and assumptions. And some people say if you have interpretations and assumptions, you didn't analyze enough. No. Interpretations and assumptions are yours and yours only. We are now with 76 people in this room. I have been talking for a couple of minutes. If I ask every one of you, I get 76, 77 different stories. Why? Interpretations are based on your education, on your experience, on your role, your responsibilities, and your tasks, your mood of the day. The last 15 minutes before you got into the session, were they nice or not? They define interpretations and assumptions. And it's human. We are human. That's what it is, right? We're human after all. Now, the point is, if you look at the process, the communication is based on documents. This is the remote and written communication. This is why we say in the manifesto, face-to-face communication. That's what we talk about. Why? Because if you talk and I think, oh, you mean this and this and this, then I can just ask, is this what you mean? Just for clarification, to make sure that I understand well. That check on my interpretations and assumptions takes approximately 3 seconds. If I was wrong, maybe it takes half a minute and we're done. If I do that in the remote and written way, it will take me hours, days, weeks, or even months. In the process of the project that I was describing before, I had to fill in forms, I had to send them out, I had to wait for somebody else to read them, then it would come my way again. That was a process, that was not only very complicated and time consuming, but it was still based on remote written communication. And every time you had an interpretation and assumption, you had a lot of problems clarifying it. So what is happening in that waterfall is those interpretations and assumptions, they create misunderstandings. Those misunderstandings make that we deliver the wrong stuff. This is why IT projects are very often so poor, because the client will say, that's not what I asked for. That's not what I said. That's not what helps me out. And then you have the problem because you have rework. Rework means time. Time means we have a delay. The other one, if the inefficiency, the waiting time, doing the redundant work, the waiting time, sending up and down where it could be clarified in minutes. That's time. We don't have time anymore. You create a delay. And then on top of this is the cherry on the pie. What we have is that client on top will ask you, oh, when is it ready? Or will even tell you when he or she thinks it should be ready, or the team could also be a team that it has to be ready, right? And then we give, friendly as we are, we give an estimate. And you know what an estimate is? An estimate is, together with interpretations and assumptions, a triplet. They have the same DNA. It's wrong. That's why they call it an estimate. Otherwise, we would have a formula. But it's not there. It's an estimate. And estimates are most of the time too optimistic. So we go down the waterfall and gets under pressure. And we want to deliver on time. So we start rushing and we start skipping work. Instead of full testing, we start, selective testing. Or what I've seen happening as well, zero testing. Just go live because you want to be on time. Pressure of the business. And then you have the bugs. The bugs need to be fixed. Fixing of bugs is rework. Rework is delay. And we don't have delay anymore. When you talk about business and IT alignment, the world we all live in, and we know this, right? The world we live in is based on technology. The changes that we have, and when we started in the mid-90s doing these kind of projects, we said, you know, technology is changing fast. If you do a new delivery, you need to be, 6 months is the max, preferably less, maybe a couple of months, right? That's these days, 6 months is ridiculous, because I always say, if you're late, don't worry, competition will be on time. A client of ours in another large country, somewhere else on the planet, they had a revenue every month of $0.9 billion. That was the revenue. COVID came in. They made their money for 92% in store. They lost 92% of their revenue overnight. You don't have time for proof of concepts or those kind of things. You need to be fast and you need to be ready, right? And that's what I talk about, because we talk about agile deliveries. So we do something and we work on it in an agile way, but also, how can my organization be ready? What does it take to be ready for this pace of change? Because the pace of change is not only changing how you and I do stuff, right? The apps that we have on our phones or whatever we are, they are very much changing and new ones. But the point with technology these days is it changes business models. It disrupts entire business models. The business model of telecommunication industry has been changed in the last 30 years easily 4 times. The fintech industry, the same. You know, I live in a village where we 17,000 people. I think it was like 12 or 15 years ago. We had 7 bank offices in this town, and the last one they closed 4 months ago. We don't have a bank office anymore. Done. And that's something to think about, right? So you have to be, because the Uber rocked the cradle. Uber rocked the cradle with it completely upside down. Nobody was prepared for it. So this is where it talks about. So how can you be ready for disruptive change? So we have to understand that in this process, we will never be ready, because it takes too much time, right? Those 3 elements, the misunderstandings, the inefficiencies, and the fact that we deliver poor quality, they are costing us time, the time we don't have. They're creating the delay we don't want. So how do we take it out? We start with making sure that we ask people, we take information from the source. That's the most important one. And it means that I'm not putting a person in between me and my business. I don't put a document in between me and my business. No business. And this morning, when we did the same webinar, somebody asked, how can you make those sessions so they will make time to talk to you, that they are interested? This is the way we work. It's not about if you like, no, this is the way we work. The way you are fixed to that waterfall model today is the way you should be fixed to the agile rituals. You are together and you have a way of working. We are going to change, and all of us are in change, but we're far from really being able to deliver that business value without any delay and making the clients happy. Right? So that's something to understand. It is about, the agile is an interaction concept. That's what it is to me. Agile is an interaction concept. One of the things that we know, especially in the world of software, that working agile means that we go to production, or at least are ready for production, at the end of every sprint. This means, ladies and gentlemen, that at the end of the sprint, the work is done. All the work to be ready for production or in production is done. So that means that we are not going to do a handover to test, to UAT, from feature teams to development. No. Every moment that you hand over, that's a waterfall, because that's a sequential process, like the one here behind me, right? We have to make sure that we really talk to each other, information at the source, but still we need also tools, especially in the world of the software industry. You cannot go to production every 2 weeks without tools for integration, deployment, and testing, just as an example, and there are more, right? The whole DevOps world where we are talking about. We need to understand this. The tools are, I always say there are 3 types of tools. One type is what we have right here, whether it's WebEx or Zoom or Hangout or Teams or a self-made platform, it's up to you. But you need the collaboration tools, especially with geographical distribution, which is more the standard these days than an exception, and of course in the COVID lockdown. The second type of tool, so we have the collaboration tools. Then we have the technical tools like testing and deployment and integration. And then the third type of tool, and that is making sure that we connect on the business level everyone in the organization, because what people do in the teams is high over defined in the top of the organization based on strategic objectives, and you need to be able to drill that down. And it's not a new waterfall that we create. It's like peeling off an onion. The waterfall is created by handing over from one to the other. It's not about so we go from, let's say, from value objective to epics to stories and tasks. Oh, that's a waterfall. No, because that stays if you do it properly within the team. Right? It's not a waterfall, but you need to peel it down. This is what you need to get rid of, and that's a problem, because we tend to hang on to those old situations. So we have the tools, the three tools, right? Now, the old problems that we had, business and IT alignment, because I think I started, as I said, in 1987 in the software development industry. That problem has always been there, and Agile helps. But then Agile helps if you really get your information at the source. And we don't do this. We try to stay in those. We try to stay in those silos. So one of the things that we see very often, and I think a lot of you will recognize this, we have the business, we have development, and you know what we do? We put the PO in the middle. And the poor PO has to talk to the business, then he or she talks to the development team, then it goes back. So already in this communication line, we have 4 times interpretations and assumptions. And we create the same old problem again. We create delays, we create, the inefficiency, we create the misunderstandings, and we lose time. We lose time. So we need to make sure that the PO, instead of making him or herself responsible for that communication, facilitates the communication. And that's something else. Facilitating the communication so that those people can source. And even that those people, based on what they make, not are being confused. And okay, this is it. Now that in the sprint, that they get times to give feedback, to even try, let's say, prototype, to see if they get to the value that they need. And then you can start over. I want to give you an example to clarify what I'm talking about. I love this one because my client was the ultimate Agile client in terms of empowering people and making sure that the team can stay in the bubble and can really work in its Agile way, facilitating the team. The gentleman was, his name is Simon, and he was leading a group of people, a larger group of people, a couple of hundred people. And in one of those areas, there was an issue. And he said, Arie, he gave me a call. It was a very, very nice, very typical call, very human. He said, Arie, I need a new workflow. And I was in the building actually doing something else. And I said, okay, I'll come to you. So I was on my way, sat down at his desk, and I said, what is it that you have? I said, I need a new workflow. I said, well, maybe you do, and maybe you don't. Right? So let's zoom in. And I always like, this is the question that I like so much. I asked him, what happens if I don't do it? And you don't give it to somebody else. So we don't do it. What happens? And he said, I will lose 12 million euro every year. I said, okay, that's a good reason to do something. It was public money in this case as well. I said, okay, so why would you lose the 12 million euro? He said, a group of my people is responsible for a 7-step workflow. We have a legal time frame of 8 weeks to deliver the moment we start the case and we end. And the law says now we have to have 96% of our cases delivered within 8 weeks. And I'm only at 84. So I'm at 84%. So I will get the 12 million euro penalty every year. So I need to make sure that we do this. We create a solution that helps me get the 96% or more. So I avoid the 12 million euro penalty. I said, okay. So now I know. So I said, your purpose is not a new workflow. Your purpose is saving 12 million euro every year. Yeah, that's the purpose. So this is where it starts. That's the value. If you don't have a clear value description of the delivery that you're going to make, how in the world can you identify on even on the story level the priority? Because per story you need to be able to quantify how much does it contribute to that value, how much does it contribute to getting to 96%. And then you can break down, and again, that's not a waterfall, that's peeling of an onion. It's done by the same team. Okay, if this is what we go for, looking at the workflow, how can we do this? So I said to him, okay, what I want from you, from every step in the workflow, because every step in the workflow was done by different people. And I mean different in terms of education, roles, responsibilities, and tasks. So different type of professionals, different roles. I call them clearly defined user groups. I said, from every clearly defined user group, I want one of your people, a good one in knowledge, a good one as accepted by his or her colleagues. So I got a group of people. And then I said, okay, now I also need to know who else, I have now your people, they're going to work with me on the functionality to make 96%. So that's one. I said, but I asked him, who can stop us from going live? Because I know in this organization, there are people involved. They are not going to use that solution. They are not responsible for creating the value once they have the solution, but they can stop us from go live. Who are they? Because I want those people in as well. I said, my point is, I want to be as fast as possible, avoiding delay. And if I make with those people of yours something that's absolutely awesome, but other people can stop me from going live, I still have a delay and I'm still late. So I want the people who are able to do this. And this is very, very important to me in working Agile. Instead of having us and them, we create a group of people together, including those other people, that say, okay, together we bring it to life. And I said, for example, to the people from the legal department who were not going to use the solution, but who could stop us from go live, I said, okay, I want someone from the legal department in this, and this person is going to give feedback every couple of days. So by the end of every sprint, we have been able to rework the feedback in, and at the end of the sprint, we are ready and we can deliver, and we meet all the legal criteria. And I want the same thing, because the legal department was not the only one. At the communication department, at the architecture department, at the operations department. And I said, I want them in. So what I did was creating a team that completely was able to bring the solution to production. Ladies and gentlemen, Agile is about going live at the end of a sprint. If you don't deliver to production at the end of a sprint, you have a sprint fail. Don't forget this, right? Agile helps. This does not help. Bringing them together, that helps. But those people are not the only one, right? So, do we have another one? No. I made it. What I said, okay, I have a problem, I need a solution. And I said, Simon, the moment that your people start working, there might be conflict with the people from the team. I need someone I can escalate to. Can be you, can be another person, someone from your management team. So I got someone else. And then I got the clearly defined user groups. And the role of the clearly defined user groups is every 2-3 days, bring in the business knowledge so that the people on the development side, here, 1, 2, 3, and the PO, here we are, can make something that meets the criteria that we have. The criteria are the business criteria. Do we get to 96%? Are we getting the improvement that we need? But also the criteria from the legal department, the communication department, the architecture department, the security department, very opportune at the moment. Now I'm able with this team to work in such a way that I have something that is not only helping the business and being able to create the value once it is delivered, but I also know that I meet all the other criteria and that I can go live without any delay. So what I like to do is, before, and we know this one, we call it a refinement, right? Before this going into the sprint, we check on what we take into the sprint, and then every 2 to 3 days we get together for half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and we just show what we have made. Tuck, 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 and we get the feedback. And instantly in that session, and I call those sessions the heartbeats. You can see here, right? The heartbeat. In those sessions, instantly together we check, okay, you have feedback, but how important is this feedback? Because some think something is really important, and it turns out to be not that important. want to give you an example. One of the ladies of this team that I actually talk about, at one moment in time, asked me, what about my Excel? And her manager was a representative of another clearly defined. He said to her, no, about your Excel. This is about, okay, said else. Later on, we started asking, what do you mean with your Excel? And it turned out that she was running the full registration, the full admin of all steps, and that in every step, memos, word in a combination, different automated memos that would just go off the moment that she clicked on a button. She only had to click the button. And I asked her, I said, if we don't do this, if we don't bring those memos of yours in the solution, to make those memos yourself by hand, would a memo take? She said, well, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I said, okay. Next question is, how many of those memos do you have a year? I said, well, depending on the situation. So now we know are working basically on a solution that needs to speed up the process with a high level of quality so that we don't have setbacks. And there is part, obviously, in the current situation already where approximately 3.5 to 4 a year, this is 2 to 3 full-time equivalents, are saved. Now, this is a piece of functionality that we need to bring in. Very simple. Clearly, another situation where I had in another project, we were talking about something, and at one moment in time, after a break, I just started asking her, and I call them the question, how much? And the first question that I asked is, this is really very important. We can't do without. And then I started asking, how do you do it at the moment? How we do it by hand? Okay. How often does it happen? Once every quarter. How much time does it take? 3 to 4 hours. And to the people, we have a very complex functionality that we ask for, but the return on investment will be close. We calculated the return on investment of 120 years. I always tell my client, if the return on investment is more than a year and a half, you already have to scratch behind the ears and think, should I do this or not? But this is the way to win teams in delivery teams. He's been able to work very successful. Happy client means really getting something that the client said, this is helping us on time, within budget. The times that I failed was always when I missed out here. Because somebody would not show up, and then at the last one, they would all of a sudden be there and say, no, I don't agree. And then I thought, okay, I failed. I made a mistake here. The biggest mistake that you can make is thinking that the last demo in your sprint is an acceptance meeting. Because the problem is with acceptance meetings, people don't accept, and then you have a delay. So you need to be ahead of that problem, and that's what it takes. And it's little work. This is the change of work. This is the agile transformation. Agile is what you do together, right? All the way up on the portfolio level. Now we're looking at, okay, where are we going to go this year? Break it down on the different per entity, getting into a portfolio wall and making sure together that we start delivering. And we treat the deliveries, the MVPs, whatever that we talk about, new releases, we treat them as teams on the detailed level as they treat their user stories. You set up the priorities and use, okay, how much does it contribute to get into? And now all of a sudden, that connection we can only keep if we have the proper tooling. And tooling can start with visual on paper. The dynamics of today's world, especially with the geographical distribution, you cannot do without automated tools. Otherwise, people are doing something, but why? And if you have people doing something, but they don't understand the why, then you ask only one part of their brain. And we are all here educated people. We can do much more than one part of our brain. This model I call the Snowman. And you can see in red the business, in green development team. You can see that the PO has, red and green. This is the person creating the bridge between the business language and the development language. And this is where you start on the detailed level, bringing alignment, but also on the higher level. You visualize the alignment and you keep on checking. Also, the leadership team works agile on their own level, where teams work on their tasks. then you talk about, you call it a project, call it an MVP, call it a delivery, the same thing. If you work, it's different. That's why I got this question. What if those people are not interested in working? It's not about being interested. Shut up and do it. Because we are here for the organization. You're not here to do whatever you like. You are here to do what is needed. And because agile and value delivery is what you do together. It's not what somebody does here. No. Because if I bring a new product or a solution, to production, it is the product build, but the marketing team, if it's a commercial product, has to be ready because the campaign has to be aligned. It has to be, according to all the legal stuff. Everything has to, because if I have all those different disciplines working, and one of them is late, my product is late. Very simple. Right? So we see those kind of things happening. This way of working is different. So I need to make sure before I go into that way of working, I have my people. So the moment that Simon said, I'm taking this case back, right? So Simon said to me, okay, Arie, I know I did more work for him before. I got my business ambassadors, I got them. And I said, okay, now I need 4 sessions with your people. And those four heartbeats, I defined the backlog together. And then together, we did an estimation. And with 4 sprints, we delivered. This is the kind of way of working different people are used to. So you have to make sure that people are aligned before we start doing it. Are not aligned on the way to work, and you want to bring that in the moment you already started, people will resist. You can't change the rules of the game once you're in the game. So I set up an agreement on how to work. And I do it with a team. I bring them together. And we agree literally, on this one, explaining to each other what is the role, what is the knowledge, how do we bring all the heartbeats, dailies, when are the dailies, when are the heartbeats, when are the retros, and you'll be there. Ladies and gentlemen, the success in Agile comes with the quality and the discipline that you apply doing the Agile rituals. I see the message from Ralph about the bring up anything about it. I'm sorry. Right. I hope it's not too bad. Coming back, you have to have that working agreement. I call that foundations, to collaboration foundations. The backlog is my business foundations. What is the value? What kind of requirements do we need to get there? We think now. And from there to work in an agile way. If you ask me, hey, Arie, can you help me with training and to be on April next year in Rotterdam? And I say, yes, of course. Right. So I check in with you. How are you as a person? What kind of an athlete are you? Then we make a backlog, and we know along the way, sometimes will go faster than expected, sometimes they will go slower than expected, sometimes there will be new running gear on the market that you want to try out, sometimes you have an injury that will take something, or whether you cannot do training outside. We adapt to the plan, right? I see, I'm checking in with Snihal because obviously we have a connection problem. The audio is poor. We only have 50% of what I'm saying. Can somebody say anything about this? Because problems.
Arie, yeah, there is a little disturbance. The network is fluctuating a little. Yeah, your voice is breaking, and the video is also getting stuck.
Okay, so the good news is we have a recording, right?
Yeah, we do.
We have a recording, so anyone can go back to a recording. I don't want to get out of the connection, come back. I really want to keep it like this. I have just a couple of more minutes, so I do apologize, obviously, for the connection. I don't know where it is or what it is. We're problem-free, and now we're not, right? So going back to the alignment and keeping the value. One of the things that I would like to say is we have to get away from we are one organization. We need to be able to deliver together. We as a team need to be able to take that responsibility. responsibility to get to. And that's a mindset. So yeah, it's different. And sometimes, and I can tell you, if you've not done this before, things will not work every now and then because you are learning, right? We are humans that will look for a solution. You know, we go into our brain and we think, okay, what can we do? And the thing that we know in our brain is something from the past, right? And we implement old solutions. And that's where you really, need to get away from. You need to innovate forward, innovate backward. I saw David coming in. What tools do you recommend to manage backlog and stories, etc.? I like working with Jile. And it's not even because this is organized by Jile, but I like working with Jile because Jile offers me the opportunity to adapt that flow, to go from value to the deepest level of tasks based on templates, different frameworks that I can use. I can define my own way. So it's very easy to use and very easy to adapt to my personal needs. It doesn't force me into a delivery framework. I can choose my framework. I can choose a mix of frameworks. I can choose my own way. And I don't like the tools that force me into a framework, right? So I don't know, David, that's how you feel about it. And I want to say that expression, I see it very often these days. But in 1995, I started doing, after my first projects, I started doing trainings, about what we call Agile today. And one of the expressions that I start using is a fool with a tool is still a fool. And it's all about that mindset. It's understanding this is different. Role is different. Your knowledge and expertise needed is different. The way of collaboration is different. Understanding that, feeling that, and making that the first priority is anything that, and then from there forward, that counts. And from that forward, then you can say, now we need the tools. And the moment that you have those collaboration foundations, then you can take a tool like Jile, and there you go, right? Then it can really suit you. I want to say thank you to everybody for your time. We are still with 64. Feel free to connect to me on LinkedIn. I always say to people, if you have a question when you're working Agile and think, oh, how do I do this? If you drop me a question in the chat box on LinkedIn, most of the time I answer within half a day. And when it's too much, I can just send you a voice message or we have a short call. I will always answer. So feel free to do that. And again, keep on the learning. Never stop, never sit down. Agile is something about continuous learning and improvement. Take that in. Get your certificates. I don't care where you get them, what you do, but keep on the learning. More important than certificates.
Thank you, Arie. We are towards the end of the session today. So if you guys can see my screen. Yeah, you can always visit www.jile.io for exploring Jile as a product, its capabilities, and then you can try out Jile for 30 days. It's a free trial. You can always try Jile. And then if you like Jile, you can get a paid subscription. Yeah. So thank you so much. I would like to thank Arie for the wonderful session, for offering a wonderful learning session to all of us. It was a pleasure having you, Arie. I would like to thank my entire Agile team for organizing the session. And last but not the least, I would like to thank all the participants for joining in and cooperating to make this a successful event. So thanks again, everybody, and keep building something awesome. Hope to see you soon with another live session. Thank you so much.